I'm not even sure what I should do here. I think the crazy thing about this Southern hospitality thing is when we thought of it, the one thing I didn't want it to be was a episode of back to back to back of rappers, and I think I say that because although I do come from the hip hop space, the thing about Southern hospitality to me is there's so much going on in the South that we want to explore, and today's episode is kind of special to me because of my love for tech and where things are going. So I'm happy to be sitting with my dude right here, Mr. Do I give them your whole entire name, or do you have a moniker like I do?
You know, you can give my whole name. I'm fine. I'm fine. You can give the whole name. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I should know that.
Techie dude. You
I should know that,
right?
Right? I should know that. Look at you. I'm turning it down a bit. All right. There we go. All right.
Is your mic registering?
It is. It's just drawing out slowly.
Okay, cool. I'm just making sure.
If not, it's going to register everywhere else.
Oh, we'll
there you go.
Mr. Frank Kenney. And
thank you.
I think I got the pronunciation right.
Yeah. No, it's not too many ways to fuck up Frank Kenney.
Okay, can we do this before, because like all of my hip hop friends will immediately start going, "Yo, Eakin, who is Frank Kenney, or why Frank Kenney?" Can you give us a little bit about what you do in the world of tech?
So I am what you call a technology evangelist. Okay. So my job is I fly all over the world and I tell people that they need to buy the technology for the different companies I work for.
And how many companies is that?
Right now, the company that I work for, our biggest customers are the big box retailer that is in every single neighborhood, that's open 24 hours a day, that there's always one ghetto one in every city, so I can't say their name.
Oh, okay.
Their big competitor that we like to say sells the same stuff, but because everybody wears red shirts and khaki pants.
Oh, okay.
So I've got them. I've got the Buck store, the other name for the Buck store.
Okay.
And I've got so we've got them. And then we've got, everybody else going back into the Fortune 500. So my job is to go around the world and say, if you want to run your business and make money,
right,
like Amazon or Walmart or Target or Dollar General or Wells Fargo or Chase or ExxonMobil,
right,
then you probably should listen to what I'm saying.
Is anybody else in this room thoroughly confused? Because I just stopped at my iPhone. Like I'm looking around the room to make sure that the whole entire team is. I'm baffled right now, man. I'm gonna just be honest right now. Man.
All right.
Can we let's start here? Let's start here because I'm thoroughly impressed by your resume, first of all. But second of all, let me start in the simplest of terms of where I am as a dude every day with the cell phone. Right?
Right.
Why has it become? And let me ask this question the right way. My mom did everything. She didn't need the phone was in the house on the wall. We all shared the same phone. Nowadays, we can't do nothing. Anything can we do without the phone. We got 7-year-old, 6-year-old kids that need a phone. What happened, man?
You kept calling it a phone. It's a computer.
Okay.
It's a computer that's disguised as a phone. It's a device that's monitoring where you are, how much you eat, what are you doing, what are you looking for. I'm going to help you find it. Information about people staying in communication with you. The phone has made the world a lot smaller, right, a lot more intimate. And, that's a good thing.
Right.
It's called the democratization of technology. It's the consumerization of technology.
Let me ask you this. And again, bear with me, everybody listening, and you bear with me too, Frank, because I'm playing what I'm really playing here, which I don't mind being. I feel like I'm way behind when I'm talking to a dude like you. You know what I'm saying? So, still, let's go back to my question though. This thing was not needed, was it, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Life was just fine.
Right.
how is everyone so locked into it right now that it's like a needed? It's a need now.
Right. It's like anything else. In 1902, people were looking at Ford like he was crazy. Right. And who the hell needs a car? Why would we ever leave the city? Why would we ever drive someplace?
Right.
Why would we ever need to go over 10 miles an hour or whatever the case is? The phone or the personal device is exactly what we were looking at 15 years ago when everyone was talking about computers on every desktop.
Okay.
You take that into consideration. Take into consideration we can't use paper anymore. We've destroyed the earth. So we need information faster. The information has got to be more accurate. We're making decisions. All of this technology drives the cost of the things that we do and we take for granted, drives the cost down every single day. It is the reason why, Walmart is able to charge so little for that. And that technology, someone thought it was a great idea to put that technology in your hand because that technology enables the largest companies in the world to know a little bit more about you. So it's a tracker more than it's anything else.
Yeah, which brings me to this right here, and I'll get to some other things. I'm pretty much walking around, like you said, with a tracking device that's gathering my entire life, everything I do. Is the term Big Brother is watching, is that really the world we live in right now?
So I would suggest that it's the world that we always lived in.
Okay.
And now it's a world that the curtain has been pulled back. So now you really see the world that we live in. Let me give you a perfect example. You go through your phone and you try to turn off location services.
Right.
Because you don't want nobody to find you.
All the time.
Right. If I call you, when you pick up the phone, if I call you, you pick up the phone. So if you got everything turned off, how does that call find you?
I'm going to just look around the room because I don't want to be the only person confused in here.
At the end of the day,
right,
that phone is always talking to a cell tower. At the end of the day, Big Brother has always known where you've been. When you were doing the two-way paging,
right,
when you were doing the beeper, Big Brother was always able to find you.
Is Big Brother, is that the government when it's all said and done? Or is that the stores that are gathering information? Is it Apple? Is it Microsoft? We throw the term Big Brother around a lot.
Right.
Who exactly, if you could tell me, if you know, or is Big Brother all of those things in a sense?
Today, Big Brother is a handful of companies.
Right.
So the Super Bowl, if you get 50 million views, you've had one hell of a Super Bowl. Facebook has something like 250 billion interactions a day. So Big Brother is that big F, or Big Brother's Amazon, or Big Brother's Google, or Big Brother's Apple.
Right.
Now those folks have created monetization platforms so that they can make money with that. And the problems that we continually deal with is, at what point do we want to check what these guys are doing? Because they're not only getting information, they're giving information, and they're influencing us. So that's who Big Brother has always been.
But when you say, okay, like say for example, like a Facebook, or you say like an Amazon, and we have like these data breaches, we have like, we just found out that people were giving our information away to somebody else unauthorized, or I guess it was, because I don't recall telling anyone they can have my information to give to someone else. Is there a way we can ever stop this? Or is it only just going to continue to just go its course?
It's kind of like security at the airport. It is the idea of security that we like. your information has always been available. You have a social security number that tracks you.
Right.
Any interaction that you're going to do with the United States government has to be logged someplace. Anytime you've gotten on a flight somewhere, that information is readily available. I think the thing that we're starting to understand is how willing these things that are collecting all the data, how willing they are to share them and sell them and use them for nefarious reasons. Like a foreign entity taking your information, knowing who you are, knowing who everybody is in this room, knowing the complexion of everybody in this room, and they're going to feed us up. They're going to feed us up propaganda to encourage us to vote a certain way. So your personal information isn't djeakin@gmail.com or whatever it is. I'm just taking a guess.
Right.
Your personal information isn't your social security number. Your personal information is that you're 5'9", 5'10", African American.
I appreciate that.
Well, you're 32 this year.
I've never seen 5'10", but I appreciate. I really appreciate that. But you know,
that's your personal information is the 10 Google searches that you did 10 minutes ago. Your personal information is that GPS information, and
boy, I'm in trouble.
and yeah. So that's the stuff that it's not that we're concerned with.
My Google searches, really? I didn't mean to cut you off. My Google searches, really?
So what I want you to do.
No, I don't really want to talk about my Google searches. I don't want to do that.
So I want everybody listening to your podcast, everybody watching your podcast, I want them to do something. If you have a cat, right, then I want you to use the word dog. And if you have a dog, then I want you to use the word cat.
Okay.
If you've got neither, just it doesn't matter what you use.
Right.
All of a sudden, for the next 2 nights, what I want you to do is start to say in your room where your cell phone is, man, I was thinking about getting a cat. That cat's so pretty. Oh, such and such has got a pretty cat.
Bruh.
And usually within 72, maybe a little bit longer, you will start to be inundated with very slight advertisements.
Man, come the fuck on. I'm not.
Everything else
Man,
like
come
that.
on, man. I don't even mean to curse like all out of turn, but come on, man. I know. Wait a minute. Like I know it's one thing that we've all seen. Like you search for something on your phone, and all of a sudden a Facebook ad pops up. Like I might have looked at a car, something that I only dream about. A car.
Right.
A new one, and then
Right.
all of a sudden it comes up on Facebook when I log in there, or it's on my Instagram feed. But you telling everybody that's rocking with us that just your phone sitting on the desk, you randomly talk about, you know what, I'm thinking about getting a horse.
Hold on for a second. Hey Siri.
Siri ain't gonna talk to you right now.
Well, everything just lit up. So somebody listening. And someone's always listening. And you ever been watching a movie? You're sitting up with Bay, you're watching a movie, and you say, man, I wonder whatever happened to Denzel Washington. And then you pick up your phone, you go to Google, what happened to, and then Denzel Washington will be the first suggestion. And you go, wow, it's predictive analytics.
We all at a special place right now.
It's predictive analytics. It's so I'm not telling you that anything is listening to you. What I'm telling you is that the things that you do and when you do them are the keys. So we have to start to think past our voices,
Right.
and we got to think about the things we do and when we do them. My phone at any given moment will give me suggestions on the 3 things that it thinks that I should be doing. I should be calling this person, I should be texting this person, I should be getting ready to head out to the bar or whatever. My phone will constantly do that. And it's based on the things that I do, not the things that I say.
And in that one, in my simplest of things, because I'm way deeper in than I ever thought I was going to be right now, I was surprised when my phone started telling me stuff like, this is the way home. And I was like, I ain't never tell you where I live at.
Right.
I have not told my phone I don't even think my home address is in my phone.
But your your phone, whether it's Google or Safari or whatever, your phone will recognize that the majority of your time is spent there. And that's when you charge your phone. And that's when you don't pick up or move your phone. So the sensors, the accelerometers are not being moved. All of those things. Those pieces of data, that data will then dictate where your phone thinks is home.
I might have got myself into something I wasn't even sure I was getting into.
You feel good now, right?
I don't know if
everybody's feeling like real good now,
I'm
right?
not even sure if I feel good. I feel like I'm learning something, and I feel like I'm in a whole new space mentally. But this is something I want to ask you, because I've been waiting to talk to you too, because one of the things I notice when I talk to a lot of people that are supposed to be, you know, the social media guru or the person at a company, the first thing they say in a conversation is, well, you know, Ike, the algorithm. But everybody I talk to, can't nobody really explain to me what the algorithm actually is.
Right.
In its simplest of forms, what exactly is the function of the algorithm that everybody talks about? Because I know we've all heard it.
Right. So think about the algorithm as this formula. Like a formula, like E equals MC squared, or the formula for volume is length times width times height, right? So think of an algorithm like a formula. And when you put certain data in, you get certain data out.
Okay.
So if you put in DJ Eakin into Google, then a search algorithm will determine what type of advertisement you should see. So I put DJ Eakin in. The data that comes in is this guy put in DJ Eakin. The data that comes in is that he's in Tampa, Florida. The data that comes in is that it's 7:30 Saturday night. The advertisement that pops out is where you're playing tonight.
Okay, but let me ask you that question for another thing, and this is something that I know everybody, because I got a bunch of friends who go through it. Let's use Instagram for an example.
Okay.
Because you know this is the biggie nowadays. Everybody's trying to get likes. Everybody's trying to get followers. Everybody wants to be an influencer. It doesn't matter what business you're in, whether you rocking with a camera, you a DJ like me, you suddenly host parties, you a Insta model. You know those. I got to give them their props as well. You know, everybody's trying to grow their following, and then it comes out. You know, when we all first jumped on Instagram, it was like everything was in chronological order.
Right.
So to me, I felt like anything I put up, somebody saw it. I felt like I put it up, somebody saw it. Then all of a sudden, Instagram started being like, we ain't in order no more.
Right.
And then you start having these talks with people, and it's like, Instagram is showing me what it thinks I want to see.
Right.
So now as a person that's a DJ, now I'm finding out that all my followers, these 15,000 people that I think are rocking with me, they're not even seeing everything I post, because Instagram is not even showing them everything that I post. And supposedly, then you see these messages that come up and be like, hey, we got to get this algorithm right, so make sure you like and comment on my post so you'll see more of my posts. I haven't jumped into that yet, but I've seen that post come across my timeline.
Right.
And I think everybody's trying to, and that's why I want to use the Instagram example, because I think everybody that's around me, that's something I could understand a little bit more if you could explain what's going on with that. Because what's the purpose of having 15,000 followers if they're not even seeing what I'm posting on? And then I watch, and let me get this question in too before you go any further, because I want you to think about this part. Everybody talks about you need all these hashtags to get seen, right?
Right.
But then I'll see, and this is, family, I'm glad he's doing, the as big as he's doing, Lil Duval. Lil Duval does not post to me on no schedule. He don't post worrying about a hashtag. He just stay active with whatever he's thinking. But I don't miss none of his posts. I guess that's because, I follow him readily. I interact with him, because of what I do. But I guess I'm trying to get an explanation on that sort of thing. And I guess speaking algorithm, do you have my entire question now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the word you're looking for is engagement.
Okay.
So it's not how many people see you post something. It's how much do they engage. Video is worth more than pictures.
Okay.
If you put up a 30-second video clip and someone listens to the entire 30 seconds, that's going to be worth hundreds of likes on a picture.
Really?
Absolutely, because now you've captured someone's attention. Now it's the difference between listening to 10 seconds of a song and listening to 4 minutes of a song. If I know that you're listening to 4 minutes of a song, that is inherently more valuable than you listening to 10 seconds. So someone like Little Duval or someone like
Gary V.
Gary V. It's an interesting example, but someone like Gary V. Is going to get a higher level of engagement because people are listening to what he says. But if you think, and I think Gary Vee is a perfect example, what he does is he gives you a very compelling, almost a thesis. So he'll say, why do people do this and do that, do this, and why don't they just come at me? So
right.
he immediately disarms you, and he immediately convinces you that this guy that is a multi-millionaire has been incredibly successful is just like us. I mean, just come up to me, just tell me what you want, just tell me what you want. And
right.
Then he hits you with the punchline that says to be successful in business, you have to be willing to ask for what you want, which means that you have to be willing for someone to say no. That's the 30-second clip that Gary Vee will have. And so his engagement goes way up. So if I'm working on your social media page,
right,
the first thing I'm telling you is no more pictures. Right? I want engagement. I want people caught on the screen and not scrolling, because those stats are tracked.
Okay.
And that's the magic. That's the engagement. When people say, let's get these algorithms right, algorithms you see in advertisement, what advertisement I'm going to show you, algorithms you see in things like trying to determine, oops, I didn't turn this off, trying to determine what stock is going to do what. Algorithms are things, futures, markets, those types of things. Social media, you don't see algorithms. The word that you see is engagement. So how can you, if you're doing social media, the biggest thing that I would suggest is concentrate on engagement. Right. And it comes back to content. And ensuring that you have the most compelling content will ensure that you have the most the most amount or the largest amount of engagements. You engage people longer. And when you engage people longer, then they don't scroll up. Then your spot on that person's phone becomes inherently more valuable to Instagram.
I'm trying to learn on something today.
Right.
So
by the way, I would get off Instagram because you can't monetize what you put on Instagram.
See, now you're in a whole nother space. Let me finish up this one space first.
Sure.
You ain't gonna be able to tell all these people that's Insta models and getting booked and stuff, and all these dudes that's starting to catch checks that they got to get off Instagram. So you're gonna have to explain that statement. But let's go back to this. And so, are you telling me that this hashtag thing doesn't matter? Because everybody too, they also telling us, well, you could use up to 30 hashtags and that's going to get you here, and you got to use these ones that only have 100,000 posts with it, as opposed to something like hip hop that's got 9 million, because you'll get pushed all the way down. You're not going to be up here where Jay-Z is.
Right.
So are you saying that you're anti-hashtag, that people shouldn't be, that the hashtag theory is wrong?
I think that the hashtag has always been, even in computer science, the hashtag has been an indexing mechanism. How can I find more things like this? That's all it's ever been. And so when you hashtag, what you do is you say to a search engine, if someone is looking for this,
right,
they're going to find me. So I'm going to start to, anytime I post, I'm getting ready to go on vacation, and so when I take pictures and I put them on Instagram for my family to see, I'm going to hashtag DJ Eakin. And so everybody searching for DJ Eakin is going to see pictures of me on an island somewhere. And
that ain't fair.
Right.
I mean, okay, back to your point.
Right. It's not really worth anything other than someone gets to see your picture and the possibility that they'll engage. So hashtags are only valuable if you have the content that's compelling, that you're going to have people engaging.
So basically, to recap that point, the lesson really is that you gotta have, and when it all comes down to it, hashtags, time of post.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm sticking so close to Instagram is because I figure like this: the majority of the people that right now that are rocking in this space with me, that, you know what I'm saying, this world that I live in, this world that my team lives in, Instagram is something that we all can seem to grab and understand what, you know, understand exactly what you're explaining to us. And
right.
That's why it's a big deal to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because like I said, I've talked to a bunch of people about this Instagram thing. And I hear the hashtag thing. I've heard, the time, you should post at these times. Like, this is the time that your audience is awake. And, and I just thought nobody understands it.
Yeah, it all comes down to post at these times because we have seen a higher degree of engagement at this time. So I'll give you a perfect example. Had a birthday on Tuesday.
Okay, happy belated.
Thank you. I left Facebook because no one ever really leaves Facebook. I stopped checking Facebook a year ago. For whatever reason. I'm on, being on the East Coast, something interesting happened at 8 a.m. I started getting a whole bunch of happy birthday texts. And I was instantly aware that at 8 o'clock, Facebook puts out the post, wish Frank Kenney a happy birthday.
Right, that's your birthday. Yeah.
Right, and everybody reached out to me.
Right, because I see that. We got to
exactly.
let that go by.
So what Facebook has figured out is that on the East Coast, if your account is on the East Coast, or Facebook determines that you're on the East Coast, the best time to get your attention is going to be in those morning hours. Because when it used to be when we got to work, the first thing we did is check our Facebook. Now that we got these devices, right when we wake up, we check the devices. But we're rushing for work, so we don't really take a second.
Oh, no, we check that before we get that.
Right.
Or is that just me because I don't have anywhere to rush?
Right. Well, that's the slightly different issue. But what happens is that we check, we scroll through real fast to see if somebody, if somebody tagged us, if we've got, I forget what the layout is, but there was something that notifications, so we check that. But we really start to dive into it when we're on the train. We really start to dive into it when we're waiting for that bus. We really start to dive into it when we have a few minutes to spare. And that on the East Coast ends up being in the 7:45, 8 o'clock, 8:15 hour. And so that's what Facebook has figured out. Facebook, and remember, Facebook owns Instagram,
right.
So, we were speaking very incestuously. What Facebook has figured out is that you're going to get a higher degree of engagement when you do notifications. And the way that Facebook figured out was feeding all of that data about when people do things into a computer that ran a formula on it, and that spit out the magic between 7:45 and 8:15.
Would you recommend, how when you, and forgive me because anybody listening, it's not like I'm confused. My mind is just racing right now. So I'm normally on it, and I'm on it right now. It's just you giving me so much information that.
Well, I thought we were going to go to a whole nother place.
No, I think the one thing I want to do is I want to keep this as simple enough that people can understand.
Right.
Because I don't think that this is my last time talking to you.
Right.
I don't believe that by far. But I also want to keep it simple enough to where I can understand. And I think there's a bunch of people that are like me that haven't asked the right people these questions. And that's why I wanted to have you, and sit down and have this talk with you. Another thing I see that's a pattern, and the little bit, a lot of me that's still instilled in me from my dad. My dad was very, he didn't want to sign it. My dad was like cash. He didn't want to do certain things. And I think it's where we live in. That's it just ain't going to happen.
Right.
But do you recommend us not signing into all of these things using, how Facebook will ask you, just use Facebook to sign in. And then we had this big breach not long ago where Facebook, all this information was missing, this, that, and the other. Do you recommend that we don't use Facebook to sign into things?
I totally understand, because Google has the same thing.
Right.
What you have to start to consider is what happens when I am on a site that has nothing to do with Facebook,
Right.
but that says use your Facebook credentials. So I've deactivated my account, but when I use my Facebook credentials, it's got to go back. And I don't know the inner workings of Facebook, but I would submit that even though I deactivated it, they really didn't, because they got to keep my credentials active.
Right.
So every time I log into Parallels Desktop, right, which is a program that I use, and every time I use my Facebook credentials, it's telling Facebook that, no, he's still here. He still needs you. He's still there. And as a result, Facebook is getting another data point about me. And that's okay, but what happens when I don't want to use Facebook any longer?
Right.
That's where you start to get the issue.
Do you ever really see a time though that someone isn't going to want to use Facebook? Like, and I'll just use this example.
Hold on, let me check my MySpace account.
Don't.
Okay.
But I think, okay, well, that's a good example.
Okay,
MySpace, but MySpace there is no way that you can convince me, even though you have way more knowledge than me, that MySpace was involved in our life the way that Facebook is.
Okay. I have a 14-year-old.
Right.
That doesn't have a Facebook account, has no desire to have a Facebook account, and I would submit to you that most folks under 18 don't have Facebook accounts.
Yeah, but everybody's anti. And here's my thing with.
By the way, statistics say.
Right.
And Facebook will publish. So if you go to Facebook, public company, and you pull down their 10K, you will actually see that the demo that they need to continue doing what they do is shrinking. Less and less young people are keeping or signing up for Facebook accounts. This is why, we got to push into China. This is why we got to push into India. Hell of a lot more people. America, 350 million. India, 3 billion. Wow. Right? So that's where the money's at. That's where the opportunity is at. But from, United States perspective, you're not seeing the uptick in new Facebook activations. As a matter of fact, I think the problem that Facebook is having is that more people are deactivating than are joining. Now, let's not get it twisted. There's still enough people that are joining.
Okay,
but it's something that's happening there.
But can I ask you this? And maybe I sound like a social media crack baby. What do I do without Facebook? What do I do? Where do I put those pictures at, man? Somebody's got to be able to tell you when my birthday is coming. What do I do?
When did we leave DJEakin.com alone? When did we leave the platform that you can actually monetize, that you can make money off? When did we leave that alone? When did we, because think about what we did. Everybody had a .com.
Right.
And so what we used to do is tell everybody, come to our website.
Okay.
And then I'll show you video, I'll show you music and everything. Then something happened where we said, come to my website and you can get my link to YouTube. So you come to my website and then I'll send you away. I'll send you out. And then we became incredibly distributed, where I have a YouTube, I have a Facebook, I have a Vivo, I have SoundCloud, I have all of this stuff.
Right, check for me in all these places.
And we gave away our equity. Wow. We gave away our equity. It's incredible. And we did so willingly. Right. And so now, you hear about artists especially, right? Music. You hear about artists that are trying to understand and capture their brand and understand and recapture their equity, but still have multiple channels. No, I want you to come to my site, and then I want to leverage YouTube because I don't want to build another streaming video mechanism, but I'm going to have it embedded in my site. I'm going to have my post on Facebook embedded in my site because I want you to come to me, not go to them. Because when I show you an advertisement on my site, that's money that comes into my pocket. Right. That doesn't go into the Facebook coffers.
But how do you convince? And I'm glad we had this segue to music, because you know the heavy hip hop thing, the heavy music thing that is around me. How do you convince a new artist? Because you know they're trying to get themselves out there, and to them, YouTube is where everyone gets found. YouTube is, you know, they're saying, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, YouTube is where most music is found. Most new music is found. Even more than Spotify, even more than the radio.
Right.
So how can you convince an artist that that's not the proper platform?
So there's two ways of thinking about this. If we think back historically, and so if we go back 200, 300 years, right? Not that far back. And we think about historically, who were the recipients of music? It was the kings, the queens, the nobility. So William Shakespeare created plays for Queen Elizabeth, right? Okay. And that's who enjoyed it. And she built them the Globe, and then she had these plays that were created, and then she had the people in her court and the people of nobility to see it, and then it goes back into history. Somewhere, somehow, the benefactors, the people who sponsored these orchestras and these operas, somewhere it became very distributed, and it became very much a business, and very grateful for that. Who is to say, so, and I think that the world is heading this way.
Okay.
The world is heading back to benefactors. This is when you hear about some sheik in Dubai having Beyonce come in and do a private show, right?
Well, he got that kind of money.
And he's got that kind of money. But the point is that there is a dollar amount in which I can buy a performance of your art, and no one else can ever experience that, right? That's the classic, and I forget the guy's name, but he bought the one Wu-Tang album.
Right, I remember.
Right, for $10 million.
Right.
That's a perfect example of RZA and Wu-Tang saying, I love my fans, but I need to specifically I need to make this amount of money for this art. And if there's one person that's willing to buy it, and he's willing to buy it all, then he could have it all. That is no different than what Queen Elizabeth was doing with Shakespeare. So cats like it, and the most amazing, when I think about the music business, and I think about the people that are doing just some amazing things, of course, guys like Nipsey, I think is just amazing. But Ryan Leslie has got, he's cracked the code. Because what Ryan Leslie will tell you is that, no, Eakin, I don't need you to touch 1 million people. I need you to touch the same 5,000 that you touched last time. Because I am willing to call each and every one of those 5,000 people personally, and make a play for my album, because I know that they can buy it. And so Ryan Leslie is doing incredible business by understanding what his costs are, what kind of money he wants to make on his return on his investment, and more importantly, who's consuming his music. So when I think about what, and I love Cardi, but when I think about what she's doing and what Atlantic is doing, is Atlantic is just throwing as much Cardi at the wall, and whoever buys whatever is going to buy that. But there's something to be said that, an act like Duran Duran or Depeche Mode or even Culture Club don't have an album, but sell out arenas everywhere they go.
But that's history, though. Can we really equate that to the same as
Absolutely, because Duran Duran released an album 3 years ago, Pop Trash, I think it's called, and they released this album, or Paper Gods, that's what it was called. They released this album, and the album didn't sell 1 million copies.
Okay.
But the album sold to those core fans, and what they did is they understand exactly where they need to tour to charge $250 a ticket and sell out. And the only reason I say that is because, as much as I love the group, I just couldn't stomach the $1,250 to see them at the Fillmore in Miami last night. And so that's what they're getting. So it's about understanding the outcome.
Not $12.50.
$1,200 $1,200 to see a band that had its first hit in 1982.
Wow.
Right? That you couldn't name the next single. Right?
Right.
There you go. You could name. See, someone found you. You couldn't name the last single that they had, but I can tell you that they sold out. They sold out. They did 5 shows. They sold out twice in New Orleans. They sold out twice in Vegas, and they sold out once in Miami.
It's just all kinds of things.
You have to really understand what type of money you want to make, and that's the mistake that a lot of young brothers, especially in hip hop and rap, and they don't know what they want to make. Okay, you want $1 million, and this is what I tell people. I tell people all the time.
You know, you in a whole new can of worms here. But go ahead.
But I tell people this all the time. Okay, so you want $1 million, and they go, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want $1 million. Going into the music business is probably not the right thing for you in terms of
not if you want
the risk.
$1 million.
Excuse me, in terms of the risk and what you can make. There are probably better things that you can do. So if you tell me that you want $1 million and you want it by X and X date, I'm probably going to tell you, I think you need to take these courses at a community college or these courses at a local university, and then I think you need to go into this line of business, because this line of business is going to give you $1 million is going to give you an ROI of $1 million within the first 4 years, right?
You ain't gonna tell them that they should drop a mixtape?
What I'm gonna tell you is that I think Gary Vee said this. This is the one thing I think I did hear from Gary Vee.
Mixtape thing. I should be laughing at that.
Well, okay, we can talk about that in just a moment. Gary Vee, I think, said this. What people have to do is that people have to understand what they're good at.
Right.
Do what they're good at and learn to love the things that they're good at. Instead, what people do is they have dreams and they start loving what their dreams are, irregardless of if they're good at it or not.
Whoa. You ain't gonna just say that once and stop. You got to give that to them again for the people in the back that might have missed it.
Absolutely. So if you have to find not the things you love, but the things that you're good at and learn to love those things, as opposed to loving what you dream about, because you may not be good at it. UPS is hiring.
really with the Biggie line?
That's exactly what he meant. That's exactly what he meant. You know, that's exactly what he meant. All right, real quick, mixtape. So
I didn't really. No.
Just explain this to me. Explain this to me. So I'm gonna go to a recording studio. No. I'm not gonna go spend money in a recording studio to put out a mixtape and give it away for free. That would be hustling backwards, right? Okay, so I'm going to...
But wait a minute, stop there. Didn't Chance the Rapper make that work? Chance said he'd give away the music because everything else he had, but he also had a plan, I guess. Chance was like, I'll give away the music because the merch and everything else is really the plan.
Chance was willing to give away the music because he had an understanding of who was buying it and how to consistently hit those people. Nobody quite knows what J. Cole is doing. He is still probably in the top 5 today and is consistently a multi-platinum artist because he knows who his audience is and he knows how to touch that audience. That's what that comes down to. That's where I think Chance and guys like J. Cole are and you and I talked about Joe Budden.
Right.
Joe Budden, I think, is absolutely amazing because what Joe Budden, who I would argue is just as nice as he always was, if not nicer, but Joe Budden woke up one day and said, I'm hilarious. Right. And I've got an opinion on shit.
Right.
And he is now making tons of money from his podcast and Spotify. As opposed to, still trying to figure out where his publishing is on Def Jam. I hope that he's not subscribed to your podcast. because he's gonna come at me for that one.
Nah.
So
Joe and I probably one of my best interviews ever is with Joe Budden. So
yeah, he's absolutely amazing in that he knows that more people want to hear his commentary than want to hear him rap, and he's going to finish this version of his existence
right
as a social commentator and a media content creator than he is for Pump It Up.
We all remember Pump It Up.
Yeah, we all remember Pump It Up. Are you playing that tonight?
Maybe it might work.
It might work.
Here, I know what I want to ask you because I can't hold you all day because we could talk all day, and that's why you're going to come back. But let's talk about before the music sharing thing took its course. Before everybody just MP3 was standard. Mm-hmm. You had an experience with a couple of labels of telling them that this technology was coming to get their ass.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I were to go back to 1995, and in 1995, an amazing thing happened here in Tampa. And this goes back to the whole Southern hospitality. Do you know that? I love it. Do you know that the biggest test markets or the most influential test markets in the country are in the South?
No, right? I didn't know that.
Especially a city like Tampa. So you start to see services and goods and beverages and stores and franchisees that you won't see anywhere else in the United States. You'll start to see them here. A perfect example is Tampa was one of the first markets for cable internet service.
Oh, wow.
And it used to be called Roadrunner. And in 95, in the 95, 96, maybe even 97 era, it wasn't Time Warner Cable, but it was Roadrunner. They started bringing in cable internet service. And the interesting thing that happened is the local home was able to plug into and connect to the universities.
Right.
So this is what these university guys was doing with all of this internet. They were trading music.
Okay.
And they were sending music back and forth.
But this is like the early days of like us talking about MP3s, right?
So we weren't talking about MP3s. We were still talking about uncompressed WAV files.
Okay.
Huge, right? Mostly everybody's doing AOL, or people are starting to do AOL. I think it was AOL 0.5. I used to beta test for AOL. And everyone's still doing dial-up.
So like the doo-doo-doo-doo in my bed.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome.
We spoiled now.
It's that welcome, right? And everybody's like, oh yeah, What happened was, for the average consumer who wasn't in Tampa at the time, these files for music were too big. And for music and for video, etc. So the Motion Picture Association got together and they formed a standards committee and they created the MP1 standard.
Okay.
And that compressed things. But the quality was pretty bad. And they needed a higher quality. So MP2 did a better job at making it smaller, but getting the keeping the quality. MP3 was incredibly important because it was able to compress a 3.5 minute, 4 minute song into 3 or 4 megabytes, which could be downloaded within 20 minutes. And
I guess I was almost shocked when you said 20 minutes, but I got to remember we're talking dial-up. We're not talking like how spoiled we are now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if you bought a CD, you could take that CD, put it in your computer. That's the other thing that happened, was the computer started coming standard with CD-ROMs.
Okay.
And burning capability.
Okay.
So I put my CD in and I would create MP3s, and you could share those MP3s. And that would be really slow, but you can share those MP3s. What I thought was really interesting, and this is again 96, 97 I believe, what I thought was interesting, and I was working with a record label at the time, what I thought was really interesting was I could take a floppy disk and your folks won't remember what a floppy disk is, so
we can Google that, though.
Right, Google that. Google floppy disk so that you can understand. And you could compress snippets of songs. I compressed 6 songs, 30 seconds apiece, and I put it all into a floppy. And in Tampa, I held a seminar.
Okay.
And so I got in all the record labels in Tampa, and I said, this is how we are delivering the new sampler of the record label. Take this and go put it into your computer and turn on your speakers. And everyone laughed. Just, wow. Forget that, give us the CDs. It was really interesting because Aerosmith and Metallica and Guns N' Roses, they were the ones that were getting bootlegged because their consumers were in higher education. Their consumers had the money for not just basic cable, but for high-speed cable. But something interesting started to happen. When people started to bootleg hip-hop, nobody understood where it was coming from, and why were these white college guys, bootlegging hip hop?
Right.
I took my show on the road. I went to New York, and I went into Def Jam, and I went into Bad Boy at the time, and there was maybe one more smaller label, and some smaller labels, and the feedback from the bigger labels, the Warner Brothers and the Atlantics and those guys, and at the time I think it was Warner Brother, Atlantic, Elektra, or whatever it was. There were only IT managers there that were concerned with just keeping the website up, and having an AOL channel, and making sure that email worked well. MP3 anyway. It's not going to be a big issue. Bootlegging's not going to be. What are you talking about? Like somebody's bootleg? What do you mean they're sharing stuff?
Right.
Couldn't see it. What was incredibly interesting is that when I went to the hip hop and R&B labels at the time, big Arista at the time as well, the attitude was not only do we just not see any of this, man, black people ain't getting on the computer and stealing no hip hop.
Wow.
They ain't gonna do that. They are not going to do that. Black people don't do that. You know why? Because historically we've had things like the digital divide, right? The digital divide is a computer science theory, and a social a computer science meets socialism and some of the studies that I somewhere in the government they did studies, and they said the biggest future problem that America was going to have is that there is now a digital divide between African Americans and people of color and their white counterparts, and that digital divide breaks down into 2 key things. 1, is there a personal computer in the home? Okay. And 2, does that personal computer have high speed? And so we were right in the middle of that digital divide, and the reality is that there were not a lot of personal computers in people of color in their homes.
Right. We didn't have.
And when we did, right, we weren't using high speed, and so what those record labels failed to take into consideration, several things. The first thing is how incredibly fast all of the cable companies would be able to provision and get people up on cable.
Get everybody on the high speed.
Right, exactly. The second is when Moore's law kicked in, right? And Moore's law talks about really the size of chips and the economies of scale. When it started to become, I could get a Dell machine for $400 or $500.
Right.
Now I'm buying that for Christmas for the kids.
Okay.
Right? And so now I have a computer, high-speed internet, and I have younger people who are willing to go and do that.
Right, they're curious.
Exactly. And all of a sudden they plugged into an economy. And I should tell you that a lot of those guys that were sharing and trading music back in those days, and I knew all of them, and including the big ones, decided to go off and start companies that they could monetize with advertisement so that you can find the songs that you're looking for, like Napster and like Kazaa. Wow. And all of those, and LimeWire, and LimeWire is more later and peer-to-peer, but this was the first time that those things were readily available. So you've got 15-year-olds that can go in and say, I need the latest Jay-Z album. I want the newest Nas album.
But they weren't going to the store. They were going on this site.
They were going on the site. What really impacted the hip hop and even the labels, they ignored that. What really hit them, and what really hit them real hard, is when guys were, and I knew a lot of those guys, they were going onto the internet getting high quality copies of those albums. In some cases, before those albums were released in stores.
Wow.
Putting them up on Napster, getting them, burning tons of CDs from their computers at home and selling them on the corners.
So that hurts record sales.
That hurt. And that hurt because the size of these organizations, we're not talking about, hey, Eakin says, hey, Frank, can you give me a copy of this? It's, I make one copy and now I've got a room full of copiers. And then what I'm doing is I'm hitting every barbershop in Tampa. Right? And every barbershop in Tampa had a guy who sold bootleg CDs.
And he moving 100, 200, 300 a day.
Exactly. Those types of numbers took a hit. And the record industry was late in responding. And that hit still exists today. What the record industry has been incredibly good at doing, and this gets us back to our original point, is we as people, we have content creators, we are still so willing to give away our content and our equity for free. And record labels have recognized this. And so now you have the birth of the 360.
Wow.
Right? And now you have that coming on where it's, it's not just your one-time studio performance of this song that I own and all the publishing around it. It's the things that you endorse. It's your lifestyle. I'm going to get a piece of your equity. And you're so willing to give it away. And in most cases, and again, I think that you see a lot of the young hip-hop cats that are doing this. They're just taking those same mechanisms that the record labels do, and they're trying to get hot themselves. Now, we no longer have radio as an entity like it was, but the record labels now own so many of those routes to market.
Right.
That, and so many of those 360s, nobody's coming up to a SoundCloud rapper and saying, do you want to own your own vodka brand? Right? They're going to come up to the record label and say, can you push this vodka brand to
one of your artists?
It's one of your artists. So now signing a deal is all about being able to participate in the further erosion of your brand, of your equity. And so a lot of, I hate to say it, but a lot of the kids now, they've got it fucked up. They've got it backwards. When, and this will be my last point, when all you have to do is understand how much you want to make and understand who is going to consume it.
Right. And
how, I don't need to reach 1,000 people. I need to reach the 10 that are actually going to consume it. And now I don't want to just play the law of averages. I want to play the laws of certainty. Playing the laws of certainty, Jeff Bezos. Playing the laws of certainty, all the guys at Apple. All Sergey and all the guys at Google. They're playing laws of certainty. This is why we have the president who we have. Because they were playing laws of certainty. They weren't going out and trying to convince California, go vote for the Republican. No, they were getting districts in Wisconsin. They played certainty. So it's something that, why won't our people do it? And why won't this next generation of rappers do it? And I think that that's where the opportunity is going to be. All right, so that's a lot.
that was today's lesson right there.
The big retailers when they create a campaign or they market a campaign, it's out there. It's out there in the open. Everything that they do is with the assumption that it's going to be consumed. What they do now is that they build brick houses around the things that are important, and it's very few things. It's corporate secrets, corporate processes. They keep those things secret. So to answer your question, the best things that people could be doing is, how many times are we monitored? How many times a month or how many times a year are we doing things like checking our credit, monitoring our credit? When we get emails that we don't like, even though Gmail has made it incredibly simple for you to unsubscribe. Right. How many times are we reusing passwords, right? And now we've got all of these wonderful tools that can generate passwords and remember passwords and carry passwords from device to device to device. So, it's the common sense type of things. We have to stop looking for a better lock to put on our door, and we have to do things like we need to remember to take the keys out of the door, stop leaving the door unlocked.
Right.
That's what it's really coming down to. So, we need to have more common sense around all of these technologies, the phones and everything else. And then, understand if this stuff is important to you, check your credit. If this stuff is important to you, change your password every 120 days, every 60 days. If these things are important to you, I know it's easy to have, just a 4-digit PIN, right? If those things are important to you, have an 8-digit password. Question I'll leave everybody in this room. When's the last time you went back to your bank? You went to your bank, right? The biggest recommendation, go to your bank and say, here's my debit card. I need to order a new debit card. I need to change the PIN. And they're going to say, why? Have you been compromised? And you say, no, but the same PIN that I use to get into my bank account is the same PIN I use on my garage door. It's the same PIN I use on my phone. And then it's the same PIN and it just happens to be my kid's birthday, right? That type of thing. That is, the banks will gladly do that for you. We don't even do those basic things. So don't tell me that you have a problem when you refuse to do the simplest of things to mitigate those things.
Wow. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Always good. Southern hospitality. Absolutely.
This is exactly what we will do. Can I leave you with this though before I get out of here?
Sure.
I just need one word.
Yeah.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Don't nothing else. Not why. I don't even want to know why. You'll just leave it at that, man. All right. Frank Kenney, man, I appreciate you being here, man. Southern Hospitality for my entire team, man. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget everything that goes with it, man. Podcast. Oh, I got a lot to do, man. Going to the bank on Tuesday, man.
Absolutely. We all run to the bank.
Get that new debit card. I'm gonna just start bugging them every quarter. I need a new debit card.
Absolutely. Or start just hitting people's garage doors with their anniversaries.
Frank Kenney, man, I appreciate it, man.
Always good.
Southern Hospitality. We gone.